Welcome, everybody, to the Synergy session entitled Onvio Tax Canada Accessibility and User Experience Inclusion, Familiarity, and the Future. I'm Karl and I'm the lead here at Tax and Accounting Canada, User Experience Design and Research. So, on the agenda today, what does accessibility entail? So, we'll get into what accessibility really means. How do accessible designs help users with accessibility needs? And then we'll get into how does accessibility allow any user get more out of their application. So with the first point, we're really talking about how can we help users with disabilities. And with the second point, we're getting into the ergonomics behind the designs of things. So more specifically here, the designs of, for example, different screen sizes that users might need um, to get their work done. Um, and then we're just going to dive into and take a look at some examples. So Onvio Tax for everyone, upcoming changes. Firstly, we'll take a look at the different ways our users can use our product, so according to their situation or need. So for example, some people are more comfortable working on a zoomed in screen. Other folks may need assistive technologies like screen readers. And then following on that, we'll take a look at keyboard shortcuts and how it's important to offer a product that's accessible completely using the keyboard and as opposed to the mouse. And then lastly, we'll get into an example of using Onvio on the smallest screen size possible, the mobile device. So preparing or adjusting a tax return on your mobile device. Okay, so what does accessibility entail? So the goal of digital accessibility is to ensure that everybody has equal access to the information and functionality that's found on a website or a digital product. So there should be no barriers for people with disabilities to access the given product. Um, so with this work at TR, what we're bringing in the accessibility features to our products like OnVitax, and our goal is to ensure that the product is available equally to all users. How do accessible designs help users with accessibility needs? So accessible designs allow us to go beyond just usability best practices or meeting product requirements. So more specifically, they allow us to respond to the accessibility needs of users. For example, someone may have a particular disability. So for example, they allow users to not just zoom in on a screen, they allow a user to work in a zoomed in situation. So when you zoom in, as you know, the screen elements get larger, but what's important is for the website to still maintain its core functionality. So as you zoom in, a button that's important to get your task done shouldn't just get pushed out of the way, and you shouldn't have to just scroll to find it. Another example is they make an application accessible via audio prompts, so screen reader technology. Um, some users may need to be able to hear what the interface button is called for them to be able to interact with it because they may have low visual acuity or they may be blind. And thirdly, another example is being able to use the keyboard to get your task done. So, as you may know, a mouse requires more out of us. It requires more motor skills compared to a keyboard. But more importantly, with the mouse, you actually need to be able to see your target to be able to click on it. With the keyboard, that's not the case. As you may know, with the tab button, you should be able to access any element on the screen to interact with it. And then lastly here, before I get into some examples, how do accessible designs or how does accessibility help all users? So accessible designs provide benefits to users without disabilities as well because they enhance the ergonomics and the usability of a product. So all of us, I'm sure you as well, have found yourself that you need to zoom in on a screen once in a while. Some of us may actually do that frequently. And what's important here is that like after you have zoomed in, you shouldn't get disoriented. You should still be able to work in a zoomed in situation. Um, Another example is to be able to maintain productivity. A lot of us, or a lot of you, as you are professionals, you want to be able to maintain your productivity, so you use keyboard shortcuts. So that's another example where accessible design comes in because using the keyboard is a big part of accessibility. And the third example is working with different screen sizes. So you might be someone who likes to resize their website's browser window to be able to sort of like narrow it down so that you can put a Word document next to it, for example. So as you narrow down your browser window, that browser window should still be usable. It shouldn't be cumbersome. You shouldn't have to go scroll left, right to find things on it. And the smallest screen size is, of course, the mobile device. And let's say you're traveling, you want to be able to get something done on your mobile device. Um, Perhaps adjust a tax return. It's important as well, and that's where accessible designs come in as well, so that like that small screen size is still usable and ergonomic for the user. And now we're actually going to get into some examples. So let's get to it. The first example that I'll show is I'll show zooming in on a screen on OnView. What does that look like? What's the experience like? Then we'll take a look at changing the window size, and then we'll get into some keyboard shortcut examples. So we can see here our data entry screen. Let me zoom in a few times, and then you will see that the screen eventually optimizes itself for a zoomed in view. So I scroll up and down, no problem. Everything is on the screen, the buttons, the text that I need to read. I don't have to scroll left and right. In fact, I cannot. Um, Now let's add a data entry group. Let's go with a business T776. We select the group and we land where we need to continue from. And the next thing that I'll show is that like this layout is also going to take place if we go back to a smaller zoom setting, but we resize our screen, our browser window, so that it's narrow. Let's say we want to put a Word document next to it. And you can see that like it's still optimized. The table of contents is pushed out of the way because we need the real estate for it. And now let's take a look at how we're going to use the keyboard shortcut. Let's press Alt D to get rid of this T776. And it's gone. So keyboard shortcuts are going to be included in the upcoming version of Onvio. We don't need to go to the context menu to delete a group or do another similar action. Next, what I'll show is I'll do a quick demo of screen reader technology used with Onvio tax. We will use the NVDA screen reader. So it's the software is called NVDA. You can look it up online. And what this is going to allow, it's going to allow a user with low visual acuity or who is blind to be able to use Onvio by hearing audio prompts. So here we go.
Checked. Table of content. Clickable personal information. Clickable mailing address. Clickable file and discount. Check sequence. Debit sequence. Result of the file RL slip type. Clickable employment. Employment in CPT. Clickable T-slip information. Resource pool begin. Clickable investments. Investments without having a clickable business and rental income. Business and rental income. Data entry area main landmark. Expanded. T777 employment expenses, T2042, T2042, T2100, T2100 business. Actions button expanded.
So, as we just saw, it wasn't just the fact that we had audio prompts that was helpful here. It was also the fact that everything on the screen was accessible using the keyboard. And lastly, here's an example of Onvio tax on a mobile device. Let's check out the experience. So we can see here our usual items on the data entry, but laid out for the mobile. At the top, we have our 4 tabs that we normally use. And then underneath it, we have the other go-to items, such as the search bar, but tucked in a button here. Next to the search bar, We have our download and import menu, so from the government, etc. And then we have our icon to change our family members. In this case, we can add family members. Afterwards, beneath that, we have our button that takes us to our table of contents because it's tucked away in the mobile experience, of course, to make room. And now let's check out the actual content of the data entry. We're going to go to the employment income section. And there we're going to just take a look at the data that's been entered. Things seem to be looking good. Now, here we notice that the box 56/I for provincial is missing its data, marked with an asterisk, mandatory field. We know that we can grab the one from the amount from box 14. So here we're just going through the typical iOS mobile controls there to copy paste. And then we pasted in the box 56/I box. The asterisk disappears. And we do have our errors and diagnostics window at the bottom, but in this simple case, it was not needed. Well, that's about it for this presentation. Thank you, and I hope I get to see you at the Onvio booth. Please visit us there, and also please check out the other Onvio presentations that we have as part of Synergy. You'll get to learn more about the product and the updates that we have been doing over the course of the year. And if you're interested to be an early adopter of Onvio Tax, please let us know either by dropping in at the booth or emailing me, carl.bujicanyon@tr.com. And I look forward to your feedback. Have a great rest of Synergy, folks, and see you soon.